Hello, and welcome to Lead, Learn, and Connect, where we explore the worlds of training and coaching. I'm your host, Alan Krieger, and today we'll be exploring the world of training and coaching, not just the how of teaching, but the behind-the-scenes work of building a successful business, overcoming challenges, and staying connected to what's really important. My guest today is Rusty Tugman, founder and owner of Tugman Coaching and Consulting, and a leadership trainer and coach for the Oklahoma Department of Human Services. Whether you're a new trainer, a seasoned coach, or just curious about what it takes to really thrive in this world, this episode is for you. Welcome, Rusty.
Hey, Alan. Well, thanks for having me. I'm honored to be on the show.
And look forward to talking with you here. So let's just jump right in with a core question.
Okay.
What was one of your biggest challenges, and how did you address it?
Yeah, that's a great question, and we are just diving right in. I would say the biggest challenge for me personally was making the shift from speaker to facilitator. I've done a lot of keynote speaking, and so that was a lot of what I'm used to, kind of being the expert on the stage, so to speak. And so just making that shift from being the expert to drawing out the expertise in the participants. For me, that was probably the biggest challenge, was just making that shift. But once I did, I was able to be much more impactful in the role of trainer. But yeah, that was a big challenge.
So what are some things you have to kind of talk yourself through when you're in a room and you slip into the sage on the stage? How do you come back to facilitating?
Yeah. So, I mean, as you mentioned, I'm also a coach. And so I really lean into just the curiosity and the questioning that comes with being a coach. And so I use that in facilitating, and that helps me to kind of to guard against that urge of being the expert. Is, hey, let me ask them, what do you think? And kind of that idea of discovery. So the coaching piece has really helped me in my training.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think curiosity is a great kind of trigger to bring you back to what's going on and get you out of your head. So
Yes.
that's a great one. So that's one of the secrets, I think, to success of a good trainer is and a good coach is being curious. Is there another secret that you've found that really makes you effective in either the coaching or training role?
Yeah, I mean, I think particularly when it comes to coaching, just listening is the core skill, for coaching. But I've also found that to be helpful in training as well. That it just, the more that you're able to listen to your audience, they'll help you to know where to go in order to be most effective and impactful. A few other things that for me have helped me to hopefully be effective as a trainer is, I think, one is just being authentic, just to your personality, your style, and your voice. I also think it's important to build a good connection with the audience so that they trust you and feel safe with you. And then I also focus on adding value, just remembering that I'm there to serve them and to help them reach their goals. And so those are a few of the things that have helped me.
Yeah, no, those are great. Yeah, one of the challenges for me in training is mandatory training when people don't want to be there.
That's
And
right.
I say the first half hour is me just selling them and getting them engaged.
Yes.
So what are some of the things you do to build trust, especially if you've got kind of resistant
Mhm.
people that don't want to be there? So how do you start this session?
Yeah, and you're exactly right. I mean, those are difficult because yeah, people don't want to be there. So I think one of the first questions I try to answer for them is what's in it for me? Because they don't want to be there. They've been told to be there, and so that's the thing that they're thinking is, okay, what am I going to get out of this? Why am I here? And so I think if I can help them see that, oh, this could actually be helpful to me. Okay, I could actually get something out of it, then they kind of just ease into it and give you a chance. And so for me, that's one of the first things that I try to do is, one is build that connection, but also just answer that question, what's in it for me?
Yep. Oh, great. That's a great answer. So what's your specialty? You do leadership training, you do workplace coaching. what would you say are some of the things you focus on the most or do most often?
Yeah, in training, it's definitely leadership training. That is my background, is as a leader, both in experience and education, and so that's what I really focus on. And so, particularly in my company, kind of the way that I communicate that is, that I'm there to help leaders be their best so they can be at their best for the people they lead. And so that's really what I focus on, is leadership, and particularly with leadership, kind of a few areas that I really focus on are relationships and influence. And the reason for that is that when you think about leadership, no matter what kind of leadership we're talking about or context, it always happens within the context of a human interaction. And so relationships are important, just being able to connect with people. And so to be a really good leader, you need to be aware of that rather than dismiss, relationships or connection. So that's part of what I focus on, is helping people lead in such a way that's creating greater connection rather than creating disconnection. And then also influence, because whether you're leading people or a project or a program, I mean, you're trying to influence something or someone. And so again, looking at ways of, okay, leaders are either acting in ways that are enhancing their influence, or they're acting in ways that's diminishing their influence. And so those are the two things that I really focus on, is kind of relationships and influence. Because the way I think of it is, leaders have to get things done. We know that. But the best leaders, they're also very aware and focus on how they go about getting things done. And so that's a lot of what I focus on.
And that's a great point. And also, one of the things I like to talk about is relationships. And there are leaders, as you know, who are dismissive. It's like,
Yep.
hey, we just got to get the work done. We're not here to party. We're not here to be good friends.
Yeah.
Just want to work. So
Yeah.
what's your? You made some good points there about the benefits of relationship. How do you sell it to a hard-nosed leader?
Yeah. Well, and that can be challenging. And I think one of the things I help them see is that, um, is that when you are dismissive of those relationships, and like you said, just focus on, hey, we got to get this thing done, and you kind of just roll over people in the process.
Yeah.
Well, you actually end up creating bigger problems for yourself to solve on the back end of that. And so you're actually creating more work for yourself as a leader. Um, and and I also think too that it's important for leaders to see that, connection, relationships, that this is also how you create greater engagement and how you get the best out of your people. And so, yeah, we want to get things done, but if I can see that, okay, we can get things done more effectively, more efficiently, more productively, and with less friction, if I'm paying attention to relationships and connections.
Yep. Yeah. One of the strategies I use is, if a guy's really task oriented or leader's task oriented, make that a task, which is what you just said. If you do these things, you'll get better results.
Yeah,
Not because it's the right thing to do or people appreciate, but hey, you want to get results, make this a task, and
that's
and
right.
then and they can relate to that. Okay, yeah, I can do that. I can be
Mhm.
nice to people if that's going to get the work done.
That's right.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Good. So you work both internally in an organization and independently. Talk a little bit for people who are maybe just new in the field,
Mhm.
thinking about whether they want to go out on their own. What's the difference between internal and independent, and what are the kind of pros and cons and challenges of each?
Yeah. Yeah, it is kind of unique, and I really do enjoy both of those things. You know, uh, One of the things I enjoy about being an internal trainer and working for an organization is, in that role, I work with a team, and we have a fantastic team. And I really like that. I like being part of a team, working with a team on things. So that's one of the things I like about being in the internal role. Also, in the internal role, when you're working in the same organization, I think you're able to see the impact that you're having a lot better than you do if you're just kind of working independently you're not there enough, in certain cases to be able to see if this is working or if you're making an impact. But when you're working with the same organization as an internal trainer, you do get to see the impact that you're having and the shifts in the organization's culture and just even mindset and the way that they're approaching things. And that's very rewarding. And so I really like being able to do that. I also like the independent thing too, because it kind of gives me a chance to do my own thing. Um, but also what I love about it is the variety of people and context that I get to be in. And so, in the independent work that I do, I mean, I've worked with roofing and construction companies, churches and nonprofits, oil and gas companies, insurance companies, auto dealerships, and I really like that. It's fun to kind of go into just different environments and different leaders and kind of see what makes them tick. And so I enjoy the variety of that.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. I've been independent for 30 years, so I haven't done the internal, but that is one of the regrets is that you can't stay and get engaged and see how people change. So that's nice about being
Mhm.
an internal trainer. And then you've got the best of both worlds. On the independent, you've done a whole range of things, so you're getting involved with all kinds of
Yeah.
new and different groups. It keeps it fresh,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
yeah. Um, do you have you tried, or what have you tried to do in terms of follow up as an independent to kind
Mhm.
of stay engaged, to come back, to help them change? A lot of times, hey, we paid you, you came in, you did your thing, you were great, thanks so much, we're going to take it from here.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I do try to follow up, because I mean, just personally, you get invested, in those
yeah.
people, in those companies, even if it is just a one-time thing. And so, there's a part of me, I'm just curious as to, okay, hey, how's that going? And so I do like to follow up, and just purely from that standpoint, not
Mhm.
necessarily try to sell them on something else or whatever, but just to say, hey, kind of how's that going? It's been a month, it's been 2 months, just wanted to kind of check in on you. So I do like following up. The other thing that I think the coaching and training that it does for me is it really does kind of build on each other. So a lot of times I may come into an organization, they may have me come in as a trainer doing some workshop, but then that kind of leads to some coaching engagements. And
Hmm.
so I'm able to stick with some of those people, for longer than just that workshop. And it also works the other way around, where I've started as a coach for, an executive, and then they've had me come and do trainings, for teams. So that's a little bit of an advantage because it kind of helps me to be able to stick longer with them.
Yeah, no, that's great. And yeah, I've been primarily a trainer, but occasionally someone will say, hey, I could really use some help.
Hmm.
And the long term coaching is nice because that way you stay involved over a year or two with people, and you see them grow and see
Hmm.
the organization shift, through their eyes. And yeah, that's can be real rewarding. So you've been at this for a while. How has your training or coaching style changed over time? What do you think has influenced you to grow as you've developed?
Yeah, I think I, I think as far as training, like I said before, I I was a speaker, and so just making that shift to trainer, and so that's something that's definitely has changed and grown. Is I've become much more comfortable at being the facilitator, rather than just a speaker, and so I've really enjoyed that, and just constantly working to get better at facilitating. Um, because the trainings that I do, yeah, there's things that I want to present to you or can present to you, but what I really try to do is I want to create an atmosphere within our trainings, where we're learning from each other. And so that's something that I think I've definitely gotten a lot better at, is just creating that type of environment and that type of engagement where the people are learning from one another. because especially if you're coming in and working with people who are working together, part of what that does is that just helps to just create their bond, and so rather than just kind of coming in and just listening to some guy talk,
Yeah.
when you get them interacting, they're learning from each other, but also they're strengthening their connections and their bonds as teammates and as workmates, and colleagues. Um, so with coaching, coaching is one of those things that you're always working on, and so that's something uh, that I really try to do uh, is focusing on really being present, because that's a big part of coaching, is just truly being present with that person, listening to them, and just helping them discover. So those are some of the things that I just personally pay attention to, and I'm always trying to work on getting better at.
Okay, great. Yeah. Yeah, with the engaging people, that's also one of the tricks I use to deal with people who don't want to be there, especially in leadership training. I've
Yeah,
been a leader for 30 years. I don't have any. So well, if you got nothing to learn, maybe you got something to teach.
exactly.
And that engagement is another way to get them engaged and get them hooked in. So yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's a great strategy.
yeah. No, I love that. That's exactly right. Because yeah, if as a trainer, if like you said, if you've got that person that, yeah, I've been here 30 years. It's, yeah, let's use that expertise rather
Yeah.
than compete against it. Let's use it. Hey, how have you approached this? What have you learned about this topic? So yeah, that's exactly right.
Yep. So, can you think of a defining moment in your career that really shaped the way you've got really good strategies, framework. I love the way you're approaching training and coaching and what your values, all that. Anything that like really shaped that, moving from being a speaker to being a more engaged facilitator? Is there a defining moment that made the turn?
Yeah, yeah, I don't know if goes exactly to your question, but when I think of a defining moment, so I think about just on the independent side. So I remember this one time I was working with the leaders of a car dealership that had multiple dealerships in multiple states. And so anyway, so I'm working with the leaders, and I've never been in that world before, never been in that context. It was one of my first kind of independent jobs, and so there's a lot of questioning, a lot of doubt. Am I going to be able to you know add value to them? I mean, I don't know anything about selling cars and all of that. And so a lot of self-doubt as I went through there. And so, but just as I got started, just that idea of finding a way to make a connection. Um, and we were able to do that. Now, they are driven by very different things than what I'm driven by, you know. And so that was a little bit hard for me to kind of get into that mindset, of what really drives and motivates them. But once we were able to make that connection, it went great. And it was a defining moment because it helped me to see, like, okay, I don't have to know your industry inside and out or be an expert on your industry to be able to help you. That what I can do is just is make a connection, because people are people wherever you are,
Yep.
whatever industry you're in. And so just kind of connecting on that human level, but also if I can help them see that, hey, I'm here to help you, you know how can I help you be your best? That once we're able to do that, then we can get somewhere and we can do some good work. And so that was a defining moment because, like I said, it just helped me to realize that, okay, I can bring value to people in all kinds of industries, even if don't know what that industry's like. It's like what we talked about before. It's using their expertise. Um, but again, the goal is still the same. They're still wanting to connect with people. They're still wanting to get things done in an efficient way. Well, that comes right back to that relationship and influence, you know. And so that was a defining moment for me because it helped me to see that, okay, there's a lot of commonalities in all of these different industries, but also that, hey, I can step into these things and help people.
Yep. Yeah. The expertise you bring and I bring is understanding people
That's right.
and how to work with people. And every industry has people.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
so far anyway, right?
That's right. Yeah, so far.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. So is there any other advice you'd give to trainers or coaches starting out or wanting to improve their impact? Anything we haven't covered yet?
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as advice that I've received and that's really helped me is I just think taking the time and doing the work to understand what you bring to the table as a trainer. You know, that may be unique to you, but just what do you bring to the table, and how can you add value to people? And I know I've said that phrase a couple of times, add value, but that's a big thing for me because it helps me to remember that I'm here to serve them, not the other way around. That I know some trainers that they approach every opportunity as like it's a TED talk, and they talk in generalities rather than getting specific and really helping this group of people with the goal that they have for that day. And so, that's what I want to focus on. And that would be advice that I would give to trainers is, again, how can you add value to this group of people that's in front of you? And, instead of worrying about that next gig, will this lead to another job or whatever, be present in that moment, add value to them. Because if you're doing that consistently, the jobs will come. I mean, your reputation will grow because you're helping people. But if you're focused on, hey, how can I use this job to springboard to this bigger stage or this bigger opportunity, that's where you really lose, I think, a lot of credibility as a trainer. So, that would be my advice is, what do you bring to the table? How can you add value? Be present and add value to that group that's in front of you.
Okay, kind of circles back to where we started. That be curious, be attentive, be a good listener,
That's right.
and then see what's your piece here. How can
Mm.
you be helpful? And don't worry about the next job. Do a good job, and the next job will come. But
Exactly.
if you're busy trying to sell, people pick that up, and they're just
Yes. Yeah, they
not going
turn
to
it
be
off.
with you. Yep.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, that's great. Well, we're pretty much out of time, but thank you, Rusty. I really appreciate having you on. And that's it for today's episode of Lead, Learn, and Connect. Big thank you to Rusty Tugman, sharing such honest, practical, and inspiring insights. I hope you found this helpful, and be sure to subscribe and share it with a colleague and leave a review. You can find out more about Rusty's work and additional resources in the show notes. And if you're ready to deepen your leadership, enhance your communication, or learn more about my work and the team model of communication, head over to our website or follow us on LinkedIn or other social media. Until next time, keep leading with intention, keep learning, and keep connecting. Thanks for listening. Thanks, Rusty.
Thank you.